Okay. All right. So now, do you experience and feel the 4 elements differently than you did before you started the class today?
Definitely, yes.
Okay. Maybe. If you don't, if you already knew all this stuff, that's totally fine. But what we're going to do now, it's important that we feel these elements because we're going to go into the 3 major dispositions that are expressed through the cycles in the zodiac and through all of the cycles. There are 3 basic dispositions. The 3 dispositions are cardinal, fixed, and mutable. And we're going to talk for the next hour about these 3 dispositions because they're kind of complex and really, really important in their own right. All 3 of them have a destructive side, and all 3 of them have a shadow side. All 3 of them need to be in balance, but oftentimes they're not. And this is going to be a time for you to reflect a lot on your life, and it will help you a lot if you are very, very, very honest with yourself. Because if you're very honest with yourself, you're able to accept yourself, accept what is. And as soon as you accept what is, you can begin balancing that with your other qualities. You can begin seeing how you can remedy that. In nature, wherever there's a poison, the remedy is very close by. And it's true as well with your zodiac, with your natal chart. And so any areas where you have conflict or you have an overactive tendency or a shadow tendency, there's going to be a remedy and a medicine very, very nearby. And this class will help you to learn how to use that medicine. But the most important thing is to recognize the truth first. And it can be hard, but I know you can do it. So, the way that I describe these 3 behaviors, these 3 dispositions, I like to tell a story. And it should be one that all of you can recognize. It is the story of 3 cars on the freeway in San Diego, or LA, or any place where there is lots of freeways. Is everyone familiar with freeways? Is everyone familiar with traffic jams? Does everyone know how they feel about being in a traffic jam? Does everyone experience the way other people behave in traffic jams? Okay, then you're going to love the story. So, there are 3 cars on a freeway down in San Diego. And up ahead of them, there's a huge, huge traffic jam. Okay? And we don't exactly know what's causing this traffic jam, but it's there. And you're gonna understand the way these dispositions work best in this kind of critical situation. Okay? So the 3 cars one has a cardinal driver, one has a fixed driver, and one has a mutable driver. So traffic jam starting. The cardinal driver, depending on what element he's feeling that day, or she, it could be fire and it's a he, it could be earth and it's a she, because we're going to give these elements of boy and girl attitudes right now. The cardinal person is going to see that traffic jam, and they are going to feel very strongly that no matter what, they're going to get through that traffic jam as fast as possible. And so the cardinal person is going to pull onto the shoulder. They're not going to merge. They're going to see that the lane is changing. They're going to speed up really fast to try and get in, and they're going to push their way into the front. And then, they're going to and they're going to get fired up if they're a fire cardinal person, or they're going to get to the front of the obstacle. And let's say that they're an air cardinal person. Perhaps they're going to use their intellect to get through that obstacle. Well, officer, you don't understand. I have an important court order I have to be at, and I'm a very important person, and you need to let me through this obstacle. They're going to talk their way through it, right? Or this cardinal person could be a water person, and they're going to get to the obstacle, and they're going to say, "You have to let me through. I'm supposed to get to the hospital." They're going to use some kind of tool to get themselves through that obstacle. The earth person, they're just going to bust through it, right? They're just going to break the obstacle altogether, like, "Oh, watch out, honk, honk," and they're just going to break right through it. In any case, this cardinal energy is absolutely busting through to get to where it needs to go. And the energy of cardinal energy is, I actually took a little note. It's from a French word named cardo. Here. I don't usually use notes, but I really like this. Cardinal comes from the French cardo, meaning a hinge, that on which something turns. It is the most important part. The cardinal directions, blah, 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 blah. Therefore, there are times of new beginning. So the cardinal sign is the only energy that actually gets things done. It actually gets things moving. It actually busts through obstacles. And you can experience cardinal energy if you think about a baby being born, right? Let's say you got this baby in your stomach and it's all like happy in there and suddenly you go into labor. Like so much energy has to take place to get that baby out. That is cardinal energy, bursting that baby out. And so you've seen people, like cardinal people, in traffic jams, right? So it's very easy to understand how cardinal energy works in that situation. But cardinal energy also is really, really amazing for like if there's emotional obstacles, if there's like you're trying to get a project off the ground and something keeps coming up, oh, the paperwork's not right, we gotta send it back, that cardinal energy is gonna say, hey, we're gonna bust through that. We gotta find a solution. This project is so freaking important, we're not gonna put it down. And so cardinal energy has the disposition where it can create a lot of conflict for itself. It can come into situations that it would be better if they just chilled out and waited a minute, but sometimes it's really, really important to actually get anything accomplished. And we see the cardinal directions, north, south, east, west. These are cardinal directions. These are the energies that bring in a new season. They say, hey, it's about to be springtime. Boom, I'm bringing in some spring. It's about to be summer. Hot, you know? And so they're very, very important. It's a very important energy and disposition to be. So now let's go on to fixed. So we have a fixed car on the freeway, and the fixed car sees the traffic jam, and they say, all right. That's it. They slow the car down, they stop, and they wait. And depending on what element they are, depends on how they wait for the obstacle to clear. Okay? So you can imagine maybe a cardinal fire or a fixed fire person might just sit in that car and stew. Oh God, you see this always happens every 5 o'clock. And I hate this guy and blah, I just hate blah. Okay, this is cardinal, or this is fixed fire. This is fixed, like they're gonna sit and stew, but they're not gonna do anything about it. They're just gonna wait and be angry. And we all know times and people that behave that way, maybe us. The fixed earth person, they might pull their car over and they're like, well, it's a good thing I like grocery shopping. And so they reach into the back of their car and they pull out the food. they sit and wait out the traffic jam. They've been doing this every single day for 5 years. They know. So they brought their snacks and they're going to sit and eat while they're waiting for the traffic jam to clear. And it's cool, you know. They're taking care of the body. They're doing what they got to do. The fixed air person, as soon as they see the traffic jam, they're like, oh, awesome. They turn on their radio and they get their cell phone and they call up their girlfriend. They're like, yeah, what are you doing? What are you going to do this weekend? You know, and they just talk and talk and talk and talk. And they call everyone and communicate. Maybe they're listening to a book on tape, right? They're like, well, while I wait here, I may as well learn something, you know? I may as well do something practical or with my time or, you know. And so, not that eating isn't practical. Then we have the fixed water person, right? And this is the person that as soon as obstacles show up on their freeway or whatever their life, they stop and they just cry. They just feel emotional about it. They get depressed, you know, like, oh, this always happens to me. And the depression just doesn't really give them any motivation to change the situation. They kind of stall out in this point in time. And the thing that's also about this fixed car, it's not going to ever exit the freeway unless it gets detoured by the universe. Unless they say, okay, everyone needs to exit, there's a fatality up there, you got to get off the freeway, we'll get you back on. But they're going to stay right with that stream, like, this is the plan. We're going to keep this the same way. I'm not changing the plan. I'm not rewriting my route. So fixed energy it can sometimes lead to stagnation. It can sometimes lead to stubbornness. Fixed energy, but it doesn't mean that they don't change. Fixed energy just wants things to stay the same. Like the person that constantly cleans their house, they're obviously doing something all the time. They're changing it from messy to clean, but they're trying to keep a state stable. They want, the fixed situation is the clean house, and they want to keep it that way. They have a hard time when things aren't the same way anymore. But the fixed people are also those people that wait it out, that are persevering, that don't get discouraged when an obstacle sits in front of them. They allow the time to pass. They know that it takes time for something to come to fruition, and they are willing to do the work to sit there and wait. They're not going to break through before it's time to get through the traffic jam. They know this is what happens. What am I going to do? This is what happens, right? And so there's an acceptance to fixed energy. Now, the mutable car is very interesting. This mutable car is going to behave all kinds of different ways because mutable energy is adaptable. So this mutable person might be on their GPS way ahead of time, and they're like, okay, I see that there's a traffic jam 5 miles ahead, so I'm going to make a different route. We're going to take the I-10 to the 215, we're going to take the 101, blah, 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 blah. So they reroute everything and completely avoid the obstacle altogether. they're not even going to touch it. And so that would be maybe an air mutable person, using their mind and technology to help get around the obstacle, right? Maybe the fire mutable person is going to say, I really wanted to go to San Diego, but I could totally take a detour in Ontario and go to this bookstore that my friend told me about. And while they're there, they run into some hot guy and end up going on a date with them, and their entire weekend changes. They don't get to San Diego, but something awesome really happened instead. And so maybe they don't get to where they were going, but they had a really fun time in the meantime. Something that lit their fire, right? So, I mean, it could go the other way too. Fire is a couple of different things, but let's say the water person, the water mutable person, they're like, oh, it looks like things are slowing down. That means the universe is telling me to exit. And then they're like, I feel like, oh, the light just changed red. Okay, I'm gonna turn right. And then they meander around and they're like, oh, that guy with the sign is saying to go that way. I'm gonna go that way. And so they just let themselves be guided through the city around the obstacles, and it's like the path of least resistance. Whatever the universe flows them to go, they're just going to go there. And they might get lost. They might make it to the beach and get the sunset before it goes down and have like the most amazing experience ever. And San Diego didn't even matter because the universe wanted them to see the sunset, you know? And this is the way that mutable water people tend to look at things. Everything's perfect. Whatever I'm supposed to do, I'm going to just go. I'm going to be guided to do that. And so sometimes that's good, right? And sometimes, I mean, who's to say what's good or bad, but if a person has something that they want to manifest in the world, and an obstacle shows up, and they keep going to the path of least resistance, it's going to be difficult for them to manifest Earth. It's going to be difficult for them to break through obstacles and bring new initiatives into their life. So you can see how it would be very, very valuable to have some cardinal energy. It would be very valuable to have some fixed energy, and it would be very valuable to have some mutable energy. Where you have that energy is variable though, and how you like to use it is very variable. And so I would like you to take a moment and think about these 3 dispositions. before you bring the elements in, just think about what you think your main disposition is in your life. We have all of them.
Can you cheat and just say, well, I'm a certain sign, so I'm cardinal or fixed?
The thing that's kind of cool about what you just said, you said, I'm a certain sign, so I'm cardinal fixed. What is that? Or cardinal, you're a certain sign. Well, when you say you're a certain sign, that means your sun is at a certain sign, right?
Right.
However, your sun, or your moon, or your Venus, or your Jupiter, or Uranus, or your Sagittarius, or your or Saturn, they're all in different ones.
Right.
And so you may have a strong, like, oh, I really associate myself with my sun sign, and my sun sign is this. And so I'm more like that, and that could be true if you are able to shine the way your sun wants you to shine in this lifetime. Then you're really embodying that shining energy that your sun is giving you. But some people have some things covering up their sunlight sometimes, and they have a hard time being the disposition that their sun is asking them to be, because they're really, really strong in another place. They have a lot of planets over in the water, fixed water area, and so they can't really be cardinal fire as much as they want to be.
Do some of us do all of them different times?
Yeah, so the trick is every single one of these elements and these dispositions are in every single person. We have all of it. We have it in different places. You could be very, very cardinal fire in the bedroom, but you might be very fixed earth when you're an accountant at work, right? You're not going to be cardinal fire as an accountant. And maybe you're not going to be an accountant in the bedroom, but you might, right? So, I don't know, whatever floats your boat, you know? And somebody is, that's the thing, somebody is. Did someone just open that door?
Yes.
No.
There's some people.
Frederick. Oh, yeah.
Hey, Frederick.
Hey, we're super late, but you know
That's
what?
okay.
We gotta get the whipped cream down there.
There might be, there's 2 chairs. There's a chair right here and there's a chair back there. You guys can totally sit on chairs.
There's a chair
not
in
that
your
much.
chest.
There's a chap there, though. You know what I mean?
There's another chair right there.
There's a chair in your chest.
Yeah. Come in, hello. You guys are catching like the last 30 minutes, but it's okay because we're recording it and you can watch it online
Oh.
tomorrow.
Yeah, I believe her.
So,
right here. Yeah.
So we're actually in a feeling moment of the workshop. I just described these dispositions that we feel, and just to get you up to speed, you're asking yourself how you behave in different areas of your life. If you're very pioneering, if you use a lot of masculine energy, if you're very like breaking through obstacles, breaking through barriers in some areas of your life. And in some areas of your life, if you're very fixed, you're very stubborn, you don't like change, you don't like, you like things to stay the same in certain places of your life. And in some places of your life, you're also going to feel like you want things to change. You're ready for it to change. You're like, before it even changes, you're ready for it to change. You're ready to divert into another location, another passion, another relationship. And so what we're doing now, because this is an experiential learning class, we're closing our eyes and we're feeling in our life the way we behave these different ways. And so go ahead and take a moment and ask yourself, which areas do you behave fixed? Which areas do you behave, are you adaptable? Do you behave mutable? Do you avoid obstacles? Do you avoid conflict? And which areas do you have a lot of energy to burst through obstacles? And this could be, like, think about your thoughts, think about your opinions. How do you feel about your opinions? How do you feel about the things your parents taught you when you were a kid? Or how do you feel about money? How do you feel about exercise?
She had to bring that one up, didn't she?
How quickly do you, how do you feel about the way you behave in relationships? Do you like them to stick around or do you like them to change? And has that changed in your lifetime? And when you identify a few key ways that you behave, see if you can feel what element of fire, earth, air, and water comes into that disposition for you. Maybe when you don't want things to change, you feel emotional. Maybe you get angry. Maybe you get really analytical. Maybe you just space out. When you come up to an obstacle that needs to be broken through, maybe you get anxious. Maybe you feel very powerful. Maybe you use your mind to get yourself through it. Or maybe you cry to get what you want. So go ahead and take a couple deep breaths. And I'd love to hear some of the things you come up with. And remember, we're being very, very honest, and this is a safe place.
You have the recorder on, it is not
This recorder cannot see your faces. I made sure of it. You're all, I can even like cover your voices if I have to. But the thing that's really awesome is even if someone in Thailand watches this video and they hear what you've said, they're probably going to be like, me too. I feel the exact same way. Thank goodness somebody said it, you know? So it's okay. Everyone's got their stuff. And go ahead.
I was just going to say that for me, when you said did it change over time, yes, definitely. From the teenage years to the 20s to the 30s to the 40s to the 50s, it's dramatic. And hopefully it But no, definitely deal with things differently. You know, there's very little fire energy anymore in most areas. It really tends to stay in the earth and the water, and probably the air, because I do think really a lot to push through blocks. But yeah, definitely changes a lot.
Yeah.
I think that's about growing and finding balance as you mature.
It could be that. It definitely. And it could be also that certain stages of your life are emphasized by different archetypes, different constellations, different elements. And so as we work with your chart, it'll be really important for you to note the times that you felt this. What time periods of your life? What were you experiencing during that time? And what are you experiencing now that's different from that?
Well, sometimes I start feeling sort of fixed on things, and then all of a sudden I totally digress. Is that a word? Digress, yeah, totally digress, and just like, well, I don't know, I was thinking about, like, I kind of feel fixed on my money. Like, I have certain things I have to have that amount of money, this amount, whatever. And I was thinking I felt sort of fixed about that. That was my most fixed one. And then mutable, I felt about food, because I'm always willing to change my diet to something different to whatever I wear, depending on weather, depending on circumstance, depending on where I am in the world, whatever.
Yeah.
So I felt mutable. But and then my cardinal thing was sometimes I'm kind of cardinal about, I don't know, projects.
Projects, where you have to get something done.
Yeah, I better get out of the way. You know?
Yeah.
So, but I was surprised my fixed one came up as money.
It is kind of surprising sometimes to think, and some people are totally like mutable about money.
Yeah, I was like, no, I gotta have this much money.
Yeah.
It was weird.
It'll be interesting to see how it shapes up, how we see how we're not like everyone else. Everyone has a different fixation.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has a different place where they're very, very flowy. Does anyone else want to share?
I think just me, I'm fixed. But like if I start to think about my work, I started to realize I'm more mutable air. But if something pops up at work, then I become kind of a cardinal fire. And I like, because I'm still fixed, I'm focused on the project, this is how it should be. And then if something comes and sideswipes me, I get angry about it because I have to change the plan. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of aspects in life, but I know my heart and soul that I'm fixed. But I know over time, I've learned that and have tried to change and grow. So, and like she was saying back there, life paths, learn from my experiences and how to achieve what I want. And sometimes you have to be, as my husband will say, like water and flow around it. And I'm like, heck no, go right through it.
Yeah.
Don't go around.
So the way he deals with that is supposed to be more mutable.
Yeah.
More mutable water.
Yes. So,
And the thing that's really cool when we can start getting into the chart, we'll see that the areas where we're super fixed, the remedy for helping to balance that is right on the other side. And so we're going to be learning more about ourselves and how to bring that balance. And that's another thing that comes with maturity. Learning to recognize, wow, I'm really fixed with money. That's interesting. How do I feel about that? Am I okay with that? Or does it cause me distress? Is there a way that I can alleviate some of that pressure and stress that I cause myself? Yeah, there is. And maybe it's something that you need for another part of your life. So we start to unlock our things by looking at the place where we have the biggest dam, by looking at the places where we have the most conflict and the most, oh, why don't I know the answer? This is the place where we start, and then we unravel it by jumping from paradox to paradox, right? So, is there any questions so far? Is there any more clarity that needs to come from understanding how these elements blend in with these dispositions? Do you want to do a little, like bringing up a situation and maybe asking ourselves, what would happen in that situation if you used cardinal fire? What would happen in that situation if you used mutable water? Is that interesting to you for your understanding, or does everyone feel?
No, that would be interesting.
That would be good.
Okay, so someone throw out an example.
Okay, so I went into the grocery store
Uh-huh.
and I got hot dogs and mac and cheese. And then I went and paid for them and I left. So I've probably been eating that since I was like 5, right? So that'd be fixed.
You've been eating it since you were 5.
Maybe, I'm just saying, this is all made up.
Okay.
No, but that would be
I'm
an
like,
example of-
you have been eating hot dogs. Okay, that's cool.
No.
That's amazing.
No, but you know.
She has no problem with exercise.
No, I'm saying that's like a fixed example.
That's a fixed thing, like,
So I'm going to the grocery store, I'm always gonna get
Yeah.
my crab
If you buy the exact same thing
Yeah.
at the grocery store
Yeah,
every
that's
time
right.
you go, and it's basically like your mom always fed you meat,
Yeah.
meat, potatoes, vegetable,
Right.
meat,
Yeah.
starch, vegetable. So the way that you put together your dinner is always meat, starch, vegetable, and every day it's got to be one of the three things, and there's 3 little piles on your plate, and that's what you do.
Right, that's, I was just trying to give you an
Yeah,
example.
this is fixed Earth. This is a fixed Earth influence. And dealing with food, it's going to get into food is a Taurus energy. So we're going to go into we're going to go into actually the archetypes in the next class, and we're going to see how these dispositions and these elements lay over into the cycle of the Earth. But before, I don't want to go in that yet. I really, really want you to take some time in the next 2 weeks to allow the disposition to show up. What is your name, sir?
Robert.
Robert? Robert and Frederick, when we started this class, we talked about how the class is 4 months long, okay? And the reason it's 4 months long is because this is an experiential learning class. And so you will receive 2 hours of information and feeling, and then your higher self will give you situations where you get to experience everything you learned, like in very obvious ways. And so before we started class, I asked everyone if they were willing to make a commitment for 4 months, and even though they may not be able to be physically present, they will tune in to the YouTube videos and watch them on their own if they can't be present. But if they could commit to this 4-month experience, and they closed their eyes and they asked, and everyone here said yes. And I'm going to ask the 2 of you too, because it's an important step in the process.
Okay.
You're in?
I gotta close my eyes first now.
You have to ask your heart. Your mind doesn't know. Your mind doesn't know how to commit to things, but your heart does. Okay.
Yeah. But if I'm not physically present, I can still do the YouTube, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent answer, July.
Yes. Okay. Because you
Like
guys.
being on the same.
And can I share the people that couldn't make it tonight that I wanted to
Absolutely.
make? I can send the first YouTube to them, and
They
I
can.
guess subscribe
Every
or
single
something.
person can watch these videos. Every single person. If everyone in the world watched these videos, the world would be a better place, in my opinion. This is my opinion. I'll own that opinion. But
Now, what is that? Is that fixed? Cardinal fire? What was
I'll tell
that?
you what that is. That's mutable fire rising. That's a Sagittarius rising for you. Sagittarius have opinions, and they are not afraid to say what they are, and they think that they're right.
That's right. By the way, yeah, we'll maybe talk about that later, because maybe it's not part of the class, but isn't there a lot of Sag going on coming up this 2015 or something? There's like some Sag energy. I read some kind of horoscope. This is like it's going to be some kind of Sag thing going
There's
on.
a lot of fire energy. Maybe you're thinking fire.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's a lot of Jupiter in Leo. There's a lot of fire happening. There's a lot of transformation. We are going to, by the end of this class, you will be able to recognize the cycles that are happening right now, and what you're asking right now, you'll be able to understand it and you'll feel it, and you'll prepare yourself. The thing that is awesome about having a map is that if you want to follow it, you can. You don't have to, but if you want to, you can. And if you get lost, you have something to refer back to that can help you find your way again. And maps are tools. And so this is just a tool. It's just a map. And it's a very, very valuable one, because if you don't have a map at all, life can feel very chaotic. Life can feel very cruel. Life can feel very harmonious at the same time if you just surrender to it. But people in your life might act a little bit crazy, and the map can help you understand those people too. You might be totally happy and harmonious, but there's all kinds of stuff going on around you. And this map can help you understand that too, and have compassion for it, and love those parts of you, even though they seem kind of crazy. So, in the next couple of weeks, I would like all of you to pay close attention to the lessons that your higher self gives you. Pay close attention to the moments that you behave in cardinal ways, in fiery ways, in watery ways. How does water show up in your life? Maybe just recognize the element and see how, maybe like cardinal water, for instance, is outward expression of emotion, right? If you take cardinal energy, which is very outward, that is the outward expression of your emotions. So how do you behave around people who behave that way? Maybe take a look at the earth in your life and how does that show up in your life? It could be that all of you are very, very balanced and you all are very much in harmony with all of these elements and all of these dispositions, except for one. Right? Always there's got to be one. I haven't seen one chart that doesn't have a conflict. And so, I mean, I've seen charts that are pretty spectacular, but there's still a thing. There's still a freaking thing. And if it wasn't for that thing, they probably wouldn't be here anymore. They'd probably be unicorns somewhere. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but... I don't know. I'm still here.
It's a appointed position.
So you can see we're going to take these 4 elements, we're going to take the 3 dispositions, we're going to start with cardinal fire because that's what brings in life. We're going to move into fixed earth because that is what nourishes and sustains life. That's what gives life what it needs. We're going to then move into Gemini, which is mutable air. This is when life starts to have ideas and opinions based on the fact that something else exists besides it. They're not alone in the universe. You're there, and I have this opinion. Do you have that same opinion, or do you have a different opinion? Well, how do I feel about myself since you have that different opinion? You know, Gemini is the house where life figures out that there's more life that is separate from it, but still interesting. And then we move into cardinal water, and this is when life realizes that there's something else, and something else can hurt it. Like this external factor, if we're not all one, then this thing out here can actually hurt me. And we have emotion about that. And what do we do when we have emotion? How do we cope with that? How do we nurture ourselves? When we have those emotions, we can actually dip into this amazing creative well. And we can go into fixed fire, and we can just feel that passion and that fire inside of us and play out in the sprinklers and make the sandcastles and, you know, go into this very creative imagination. And so it's a wonderful place to have some balance. As life plays, it makes a mess. And it gets a little bit crazy. And so life has to clean itself up. It moves into Virgo, and it straightens it all up. It gets it all tidy again. Cleans the baby up for dinner, you know? After the baby gets cleaned up for dinner, it has dinner with grandma and all these people that it loves. And so life moves into relationship, and it learns how to have an interest in something other than itself. Here, life is all concerned about who life is. Who am I? What is my name? What am I about? When they get over here, suddenly, who are you? You are so interesting to me. I've never met anyone more interesting than me, but I just did. And now I want to know. Now I want to know what you're about because I'm actually really interested in you. This is Libra, right? After life gets interested in someone else, they decide to go on a deep sea dive into the bottom of Lake Tahoe and find whatever's down there. And it could be scary, it could be exciting, it could be totally freaky, and maybe we don't trust anyone to do that. But let's say that we do. And let's say that life goes deep and it pulls up all of this amazing buried treasure. They find out that a whole other civilization existed that we didn't even know about. And it was all at the bottom of the water. And the only way we could do that is we had a diving partner that helped us get down there deeper and deeper and deeper, right? And so we pulled up the buried treasure, and it completely changes our idea of our reality. It blows our mind. It gives us this perspective that our Earth is way bigger. Our reality is way bigger than we thought it was before. And so we move into mutable fire, and this is when, oh my gosh, I'm expanding at a rapid pace. My fire, my energy, I just want to go here and I want to learn this and I want to know that. And when we know all this stuff philosophically, when life discovers the bigger picture, it wants to do something about it. Well, what do I do about this? I'm gonna freaking write a paper about this. I'm gonna build a foundation. I'm gonna start a museum. I'm gonna build something in the real world that helps me to get this information that I found at the bottom of the lake with my partner out into the open so I can share it with other people, right? And after we share it with all these other people on this platform that we've built, this physical platform, we actually start to shift the minds, the fixed air of our communities. We actually take a community from thinking that the world is flat to the understanding that the world is round. Not only is the world round, but it's all connected. And when we are able to shift the fixed thoughts of our community, we move into this energy of Pisces, this energy of knowing that we are all connected, that you and you and you and you and you, you're all fingers on the same hand. And if I stub this toe, I can't do anything until I help my toe. My toe is so important to me. And even though it's not my brain, it's my toe. And it's just as important as my finger or my eyelash or anything else that's attached to me. No, kitty.
Wants to play with the air.
So, we will see in the coming weeks and months how this beautiful cycle that life is experiencing itself through comes up for us. What's our part in this? Where are we at in the cycle? How are we balancing this equation for ourselves? What is the blockage? What's the dam keeping us from the ocean? Do we know ourselves well enough that we don't need a partner to tell us who we are? Do we have all the things we need so that I don't need to get the things I need from someone else? Have we completed ourselves? Are we paying our own bills? Or are we dependent on someone else to take care of us? These are the things that can be answered by looking at our natal charts, by looking at what we're working with. And the really good news is, every single chart is right and perfect. Every single chart was created with infinite wisdom and unconditional love when each one of you were in your spirit self before you incarnated. You made your own plan. You made your own chart. It's yours. And you remember what it is. You just can't quite put your finger on it. And so this class will help you put your finger on it. And more truthfully, it'll help you put your finger on it. Right there. And so I'm so grateful that all of you came out. I'm so grateful that all of you are taking this journey. And I'm really excited to hear what your experiences are over the next 2 weeks. Because my experience with experiential learning is that shit gets real. It gets freaking real. You can't, you made the commitment now. You can try to uncommit it, but, but your higher self got you here. Your higher self got you here, and it's not going to let you go. If you come into conflict, it'll only be because you're fighting something. You're fighting an element. You're fighting a disposition. You have an imbalance. And the only remedy for that is to coming into balance with it, coming into acceptance of it, and coming into awareness. So, with that, I just want to thank you. And if anyone has any questions, we can ask them now. Anyone?
Is it possible with the cardinal and the water or whatever combination you have, to have that happen within a day differently all the time? You know, so let's say I have an argument with my husband, or my husband says something, in that particular moment, it doesn't bother me at all. 2 hours later, he says something, and I blow. Or 2 hours later, he says something, and I'm in the other one. Is that possible for that to go on within a day, or within your week, or within...
Apparently it does.
You can go for hamburgers or hot dogs and mac and cheese. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that you're talking about your relationship with your husband.
Okay.
Okay? So, the fact that you change in your emotional way when you're interacting with your husband, what does that feel like to you? What kind of information would that give you?
I was giving you the answer.
Well, point a little clearer, will you?
Way over there.
You may have mutable water in the way you're relating with your husband.
Okay.
Okay? So we would need to look at your chart, and we will, to see where your mutable water is in your chart. Because it could be that it's only certain topics that you and your husband fight about that give that situation to you. It's only certain things. Maybe it's just about the house. Maybe it's about everything, and so it's specifically about him. Like, you just feel that way with him. Brr, you know? And maybe it's just about your bodies when you have low blood sugar, you know? So what we'll do is in the next class, you guys will all receive an email from me after this class. So in the next class, before the next class, you're going to email me some important pieces of information, and I'll give them to you in the email. It's going to be your exact birthday, exact birth time, and the exact birth location. Some of you already have your charts done by me, but just send it to me anyway so I have it. For the people who are not present, this isn't a part that can be participated in, but you'll still get a lot of information just listening to the class. And if anyone wants to send me the information, they can, and I'll send them their chart and they can follow along at home. All right? So that's what we're working with, where you're gonna note, when I'm with my husband, sometimes it doesn't bother me when he says it at first, and write down the topic. What is it about? Like, try and be as specific as possible. What are you fighting about? Who are you fighting with? What are the variables that are the same? What are the variables that change? Do I behave that way with my sister? Or do I just behave that way with my husband? We have different relationships with different kinds of people. How do I feel about strangers? This is a really big one. How do you feel about strangers? Are they interesting to you? Are they scary to you? Are they neutral to you? You don't even notice strangers. People don't even exist. They're strangers. Maybe everyone's your friend. You know? How do you feel about that? So go ahead and take some time out and really ask yourself these questions. Anytime you come into a situation, jot it down. Oh, what did that feel like? I didn't feel anything about that. I felt nothing, in fact. Right? This is also significant. When you feel nothing about something, this is kind of a big deal. And so note that too. The work will happen in that bubble. That's when the work happens. And the insight will come from the data that comes from it. So it's an important part of this commitment process. And you guys missed the part, if you have a hard time journaling or if you don't like to do it, this might be a piece of your relationship with taking the thought and bringing it into reality. This might be a manifestation issue, and that's important to note as well. So yeah, if there's times when you feel like you don't want to journal, why don't you want to journal? Write that down. I don't feel like journaling because I just can't think of anything. Because as soon as I try to write it, I forget what I was going to say. Because it's too much effort. I just don't want to do it. Or because I'm way too busy. Whatever it is, then write that down.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
You should try to journal every day, and in that email, will you send some kind of examples of questions to ask ourselves, or is it just
Sure.
everything? Pay notice to everything.
It's kind of a blanket to notice everything. When you watch the video, you will get more insight to what questions you're going to ask yourself. Because it's about how you feel the elements in your life. When you feel fiery, when you feel watery, when you feel airy. And so it'll be important for both of you to watch the video before you begin journaling. And we're going to get it online tomorrow. And so I'm going to take all of your email addresses, I'll enter it into the subscriber thing on my website, and then I'll send out a blanket newsletter telling everyone that this video is available, and then you'll be able to watch it, okay? But you specifically are going to receive an email from me asking you for specific information. And then we'll go from there. All right?
Cool.
So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Hey, Ben.